Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Paula Swedes of the Your Absolute Mind podcast. Now, today I want to discuss a topic that, strangely enough, doesn't seem to get a great deal of coverage. In today's episode, we're going to try to answer the question, what does it take to become mentally healthy? Now, the reason why I think this is so fascinating is that so many of us tend to understand what it would take to become physically healthy. And we understand what it would take to learn a new language or learn to play the piano. But when it comes to our mental health, something that seems to plague so many of us nowadays, this idea of what does it take to become mentally healthy escapes many of us. So, what's the recipe for mental health? What can each of us do every day that can help us to build our minds to become mentally resilient, mentally healthy, and able to deal with the stress and the anxiety that the general day-to-day throws at us? And we all know so well that there's absolutely no way of escaping the stresses that creep up on us. Stresses are everywhere in our everyday life. We just don't look for them. Now, as most of you know, I've been a full-time multimodal therapist for the past 10 years. And when I say full-time, I really do mean it. Now, I only say this to emphasize the fact that in therapy world, therapists will generally work 10 to 15 hours a week maximum. And this might be because they're working within an organization that they carry out sessions infrequently or occasionally. Or it might be that they're a part-time therapist, either in the mornings, the evenings, or just at weekends. Well, I seem to have found myself in a uniquely stressful therapy environment where I'm seeing between 5 and 7 people every day, with a massive range of issues from the obvious anxiety and stress through to the more complex issues, such as personality disorders, extreme depression, bipolar, identity crisis, OCD, and pretty much anything else that you can think of. And many more things you perhaps couldn't even imagine. Now, I don't say this to brag or to say pity me because I'm such a busy, stressed therapist, but I do say it to hopefully give some scope on the rest of the podcast based on my understanding of what works for so many, regardless of their current situation, and what it takes to become mentally healthy. It's honestly my hope that the more I talk about becoming mentally healthy and empowering each and every person to take as much action as they reasonably can to help improve their mental health, which no doubt will dramatically change their lives. And I know it seems a little bit far-fetched, but I really do believe we can become mentally healthy, mentally resilient. And the world will be a much happier and a better and a kinder place to live. So let's give this some context. If you've seen any of my videos on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, the short ones, you may have come across me sat at a table like this one, with a glass of water like this, dropping some stones in. Now, the idea being that we all have our standard stress level. And I generally demonstrate this usually with a glass half full of water, and then I begin to drop some stones in the glass. Now, these are our daily stressors. They could be anything from dropping the milk on the floor when you're bringing it in, to receiving an email that you really didn't need that morning from the boss or from the school, to arguments in the house with the kids or the partner, or whatever it is. Each of these small stressors or these anxieties begin to drop into the glass. And then the inevitable happens. One stone goes in that's either so large or your glass is so full that it begins to rise and it spills over. Now, the importance of this spillover is that this is the bit that we normally notice. Then we begin to wonder why quite a small remark from a colleague has literally thrown us over the edge, made us explode. The spill is normally the point at which you recognize that you're feeling extremely stressed or anxious. Most of us would agree in times like this, it's when we really need mental resilience. And what we have is exactly the opposite of feeling mentally healthy. So then, that sudden spill can do a number of things. More often than not, people will begin to question why it was that minor thing that caused such a reaction. You see, even though we think we have decent memories, it's not easy for us to account for all of the small problems that start to build up throughout the day. and to understand that it's a compounding effect of all of these little stressors that makes our levels rise. We notice the reaction because we've got so much going on in our world that we only see the reaction. Also, the sudden spill or overreaction can then be labelled with a character trait that gives us a reason, perhaps for the action. You may hear people say, it's because I suffer from extreme anxiety, or it's because I've been diagnosed with high stress. Therefore, the action of the overspill matches up with the label, which hopefully then in some way relieves some of the need to delve deeper to understand if it's us, or if there's something else that we could do to avoid it next time. You see, it's just the way we are. But what if it's something else? So let's head back to the start with me saying how many people I see for hundreds of different issues in my therapy practice. The reason I wanted to frame the podcast this way is because even with so many different types of people from different ages, different backgrounds, different life experiences, and different conditions that they present me with, in nearly all cases, the same 5 or 6 things that we do within therapy sessions that they take with them to carry on to build those healthy habits outside of sessions are what helps them from stepping away from their challenges, stepping away from anxiety to be mentally healthy, stepping away from deep stress and anxiety to become mentally healthy. So let's lay down the steps, what they are, how you can do them, and what you can expect. Now, step 1 is to recognize the issue and label the issue, not yourself. For example, if you're experiencing feelings of anxiety, then you're feeling anxious. You don't have anxiety. If you're feeling depressed, then there's perhaps a situation that's depressing you, and naturally you will feel depressed. That doesn't mean that you have depression. Let's look at it another way. Let's say you take a newfound obsessive pride in how tidy and organised your house is. This obsessive compulsion to have things just so might mean that you really begin to recognise how good it feels when things are in order, and not necessarily that you now have OCD. Now, this first step really is the key to unlocking the ability to change. It's only a matter of semantics, but how we perceive a problem, whether it's something we have versus something we do, dramatically changes the sense of possibility of change within ourselves. Let's take anxiety again. Let's say you wake up one morning, you haven't had a great night's sleep for whatever reason that might be. Yesterday was extremely busy, and you now know that you have a busy, challenging day ahead of you. It's normal to feel a level of anxiety in some cases. Then let's say the rest of the week becomes extremely busy. Because not only have you got the challenges at work, perhaps a friend or a family member or a loved one has asked for some assistance in the evenings, and you don't really have the time. Now again, this could be anxiety inducing due to the amount of issues that you need to deal with. So then, do you feel anxious or do you have anxiety? Or put it another way, if you have anxiety, how do you then not have it? Or if you feel anxious, could that just be feeling anxious and not anxiety? Sounds really strange, but the way I like to look at it is if you flip the feeling for something positive, let's say happiness, then if a person is able to have anxiety, I just wonder how many times you've ever heard anyone say that they have happiness. Feelings are temporary, labels are permanent. So the takeaway here is get rid of the label of I have and change them to I feel or currently feel. Now, step 2, as I suggested at the start, you probably know most of the elements that it takes to become physically healthy. That might be a balanced diet, regular exercise that's suitable enough to push you to allow your body to adapt and grow stronger and fitter. And as we know, the biggest element to becoming physically healthy is consistency. That means every day. One meal or one day of exercise really doesn't do anything. Now, the same goes for learning a new skill. As I suggested at the beginning, take piano for example. Imagine wanting to get great at piano and then just practicing for 10 minutes twice a week. Do you think you could become a pianist from doing so? Perhaps not. You see, what it takes in nearly all walks of life to achieve anything worthwhile and significant is consistency. So to become mentally healthy, what are the steps that are required? If we do them consistently, can we really expect results? Now, I'm going to give you 3 things here because I believe that these are the 3 most important things that we can do based on thousands of clients achieving their results once they've implemented them. Now, firstly, it's movement. Now, it doesn't matter whether this is a full-blown 1 hour and a half workout, a walk, or even multiple walks, or getting up from the desk or your chair and get some air outside. Movement really is the key. Now remember, consistency is paramount, so don't go and plan a 5K run and then sit down for the rest of the week. You are far better off getting up every 25 to 30 minutes. If that's all you can do, just go outside, walk around the house, walk around the office, break the state of where you're currently at and get your body moving. Then if you can step it up a little bit because your time allows or your current physical state allows it, then of course throw in some exercises, some yoga, some HIIT training, some weightlifting, running, whatever it is. It's all magic for the mind. But remember that consistency is the key. Now next on the list is a consistent sleep schedule. And I mean one single sleep schedule, not one that changes at the weekend. Not one that involves a really late night on Saturday, then try to have an early night Sunday, but you find that you're not tired because you laid in on Sunday morning. Then a really early start for work on Monday, and then wonder why you feel horrible until Thursday. A consistent sleep schedule means setting a sleep and wake time for you on a consistent basis. Your body can then begin to find its own natural cycle and work for you. Now the next, I believe this is perhaps the easiest element to throw in, and with a few simple Google searches or on YouTube, you will find that hundreds, if not thousands of celebrities tout in the effects and benefits of a regular meditation schedule. Now hear me out. Don't disappear just yet, because meditation certainly wasn't up my street or something that I thought I had the time to include. Plus, I really struggled when I first started out meditating. I couldn't do it. However, what's really interesting is that the vast majority of the benefits of meditation practice is the consistency of it. Every day. Not necessarily spending hours sat on an uncomfortable floor with your legs crossed and your palms upturned. It's not that. What's important is that you give yourself 5 to 10 minutes alone quietly with a guided meditation. It's amazing how impactful it can be to just clear your mind, to focus your mind on that guided meditation for 5 or 10 minutes. And this is a shameless plug. This is exactly why we created Your Absolute Mind app, just to make guided meditation practice simple. It really is as simple as open up the app each day, and there on the screen is a brand new meditation. That's created from an inspiring quote that day. And if you really love that one, you can then save it and come back to it at a later date. If not, then there's a brand new one waiting for you the following morning. Now for me, when I first started out with meditation, the challenge I found was I would listen to the same thing over and over again because I really enjoyed it. But then I would know what was coming. I got used to it. I learnt it. And then I'd find my mind drifting off and not paying attention to the actual session. Then I'd end up talking about shopping lists in my head and not focusing on the meditation because I knew it word for word. So naturally, I went hunting for more, only to find meditations that are 40 minutes long, 7 minutes long, or an accent that I really don't like and I couldn't get on with. So many more reasons why I needed to keep looking and to keep practicing my meditation to find the ones that fit. Now, it doesn't matter whether people come to see me for counselling, CBT, hypnotherapy, or any other motive therapy. In each and every case, whenever I'm working with a client who's serious about taking control of their mental health and doing what they can to improve upon it, these are the 3 actions that I always suggest: sleep, movement, and meditation. Of course, there's so many more things to go around this, like hydration, it's vitality, important learning some skill set of how you control your thoughts and your reactions of mind. In difficult times, it's massively beneficial. But these are really additive to the core function of what it takes to become mentally healthy. And there we have it. The foundation to building a mentally healthy life. Remember, mental health, much like physical health, requires attention, requires care, and regular maintenance. It's about understanding and respecting the unique rhythms of our minds, just as we do our bodies. So to recap, mental health hinges on 3 critical pillars: recognizing and labeling issues without self-judgment, maintaining physical movement and consistency in healthy habits, and ensuring a stable sleep schedule coupled with the practice of meditation. These steps aren't just theoretical, they are practical tools proven in my decade of experience in therapy. Now, as we close today's episode, I urge you to reflect on your mental health journey. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each small step that you take is a leap towards a healthier and more resilient you. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're all navigating this complex, beautiful thing called life. And together, we can foster a world where mental health isn't just a dream, but a tangible, achievable reality. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Your Absolute Mind. I'm Paula Sweet, reminding you to be kind to your mind, for it's the most powerful tool you possess. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll explore more pathways to mental wellness. Until then, take care. And remember, your absolute mind is your absolute power.